Hi, how you guys doing today? My name is Willis, and welcome to my brand new podcast called Will I Run for President, where we will try to answer the question of if I will be able to run for president in either 2032 or 2036, depending on who the incumbent party is. No, I will not be telling you guys who my party of choice is until I actually decide to run in my first election. The reason for doing this is I want you to judge me for me and not just based on party lines. All right. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into what this podcast will actually do and what this podcast will actually be. All right. This podcast will be covering all of the bills that pass through the House and pass through the Senate, at least those that are reasonable to report on. But what I mean by that is I will not be covering any petty grievance bills, meaning bills that are just there to attack a member of the House or attack a member of the Senate, as those are not constructive for us to even worry about. Those are waste of taxpayer dollars and really just a distraction from the overall process of getting something put into law to make things better for the American people. That being said, though, I will also be covering every single executive order that is signed, whether it is reasonable or not, just because we should know what our president is doing to our government. Whether it is good, whether it is bad, whether it is neither here nor there, whether it's relevant, whether it's not relevant. I will be covering it because the American people deserve to know. And I feel that the regular news media doesn't report properly when it comes to matters of legislation that are going through. They don't cover anything that doesn't pass for the most part, and we should be knowing what doesn't pass so we know who messed up, so we know who defended us, who fought for us, and so we also know who we should and shouldn't vote out. I'm not going to tell you who to vote out. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, with the exception of asking that you guys vote for me, but I'm not requiring it. You can listen to every single one of my episodes and then choose not to vote for me. It'll suck, but at the end of the day, that is your right as an American. So, what I am also doing with this podcast is essentially turning it into a 8 to 12 year campaign depending on if my preferred party is incumbent in 32 or not, as well as turning it into a bunch of smaller campaigns where I may run for either House or Senate based solely on if it is available for me to run. Meaning, I will be meeting with whatever political party I choose, and I will not be telling you guys what political party I have chosen until I do run for my first campaign, as I feel that putting the party out there automatically brings negative connotations. And I want you to judge me for me, not for my party. I want you to judge me for my ideas and for my content and for my actual political leanings. I also will not be discussing anything to do with religion, one way or the other. I am of the belief that your religion does not define what you do. What you do should be defining of you, but your religion is not. There are bunches of criminals that go to jail and either become Christian or become Jewish while they are in jail. And they still did bad things. And I am not trying to blame these people either. I understand a lot of things have extenuating circumstances behind them, but your religion does not define you in a way that would be constructive to judge you on. Just like my religion would not define me in a way that would be constructive to define me on when I am running for political office. So, now that we got that out of the way, we understand what we're doing with the actual podcast, the direction that it's headed. Let's dive in to where the finances from this podcast are going to go. Every single cent that I make through this podcast will be going into a bank account to be used solely for campaign finances. Meaning, if I get to the point where I need a new microphone for this podcast, I will buy that out of pocket. That is not coming out of any of your views. It's not coming out of any donations that you may give me. It is going to come out of my pocket. Because I believe if you are coming here and you are viewing my content, you should know where that money's going and you should be getting your time's worth for that. So, now that we've gone through where the finances are going to go, we've gone through what the podcast is about, I'd like to give you guys just a little bit of a background on myself so you know whether you even want to listen to this podcast or if you're just going to be outraged when information about me comes out. So, let's get into it. In my past, I only really have one thing that is a major no go for some people, and that is I was in the United States Navy and I got separated from the Navy prior to completion of my first contract. I served 3 years shy of my 3 year mark. I have a general under honorable conditions. It is one less than a regular honorable. No, I will not go into the circumstances surrounding it, as I do not feel that the circumstances were fair or appropriate, and I do not want to drag that negative cognitivity into this podcast. I want this to be a place where you can come get information and not be bogged down by negative conversation. Um, Unless obviously we have pass a bill that's extremely negative, then yeah, there will be some negativity, uh, but that's unavoidable. I would like to also point out that the reasoning behind why this podcast is going to be funding any campaign that I do run is because I do not come from money. I actually had times in my childhood where power and water got shut off because we couldn't afford the utilities for a couple days. Um, and that just, it happened. It's the life I lived through, and we're going to move past that. So, that being said, I do not have buckets of money before any campaign to throw at the campaign. I currently am working a job where I drive forklift off road all day. And I plan to, in the next couple months, be moving into the HVAC industry. So I definitely am a supporter of not necessarily unions. Um, I'm indifferent towards the unions themselves. However, I am pro workers' rights. Whether you're in a union or not in a union, you deserve rights. Whether you're in a union or not in a union, you deserve fair pay. Whether you're in a union or not, you deserve decent quality of life. These are some of the things that I believe in. And you'll learn more about what I do and don't believe in as we go through episodes. Um, I also do hopefully want to have a politician or two every now and then come onto the show. Um, Even though I don't have to abide by equal time, I will offer equal time. So that means if I have, let's just throw a big name out there, right? Let's just say I get Obama on for one episode and I get Trump on for another episode, you know, that way no one can say that I didn't hear issues out from both sides. Because I fully believe that both sides have some good. I believe both sides have some evil. I personally am relatively middle of the road. So no matter which party I were to run under, I would be a moderate insert party name. That being said, it is also political suicide to not pick one of the two big parties and to go third party, as you realistically will not win, because if you do not poll over 15% of the vote, uh, well, yeah, if you do not poll for more than 15% of the vote, uh, you will never be offered that equal time. And if you're not offered that equal time, you can't further your political career or your political agendas. So I'm going to make it very clear. My political agenda, whether you agree with my stances or not, is to help your average everyday American get up and get out there and live the best life that they can within their means. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Any bill that hurts the American people, I will automatically be opposed to. Unless there is some offset that then returns greater than the level of harm. Meaning, if there is a bill that goes through that's going to cause an additional 1% inflation over a year, but then bring back a yield of decreasing the national inflation by like 1.5% over the 4 to 5 years following, yeah, then that bill kind of makes sense to support. The hardship's going to suck. I'm going to have to live through it too. I don't have money, you know? So when I side with one side of a bill or another, it's going to be coming from the place of the American person. And we might not agree on everything. I don't expect for everyone to agree with everything I say. That's an unrealistic expectation. Just like I can't expect everyone to like every flavor of ice cream. All right? I personally think fruit and ice cream don't really mix. So, like, strawberry ice cream's fine, but when you have strawberry ice cream with strawberry chunks in it, I don't like that. I'm not going to judge people who like that. That is their decision. That is their choice. That is their taste buds that are different from my own. Just like everybody's circumstances are going to be different from my own. And I would hope that throughout this, as I continue to post on TikTok, as I continue to post these on YouTube, as I continue to make these podcast episodes, that I will get comments with constructive criticism where we can sit down and have a conversation and a discussion civilly to figure out maybe if I misunderstood something, if you misunderstood something, or if we just have a fundamental disagreement where until certain things play out, we cannot know who is actually correct. I want this to be a place for news. I want it to be a place for conversation. I want it to be a relatively safe place for everybody to come and express themselves in a constructive manner. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast when it fully comes out halfway through January. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my pre-episode and notate that yes, this episode was and is and always will be more disorganized than the others, as there's a lot more free conversation in this one than structure, just due to not having notes of bills. Because that's how this will go. I will have the notes of bills in front of me, and I will go through them, and then I will discuss possible implications and whether I agree or not. Now, thank you. I hope you guys come back for the first episode and many after. If you are done with me after this pre episode, that is fine. That is your choice. I would still encourage you to try to come back and have a listen to my first episode when it drops sometime halfway through January as bills start coming out for the 119th Congress. Thank you.